All right, thank you, John. Good morning, still, barely. So this is the first of a two-day directing workshop, and it's just first of all really an honor to be with you guys. I love Kwufufufuf. It's a beautiful thing to come to. I love getting off the plane and feeling like I'm in a Kendrick Brothers movie, driving around these streets. I really sort of feel like I belong in a way to this church because I've come here 2 or 3 times now over the years, and I'm always blessed by it. And my goodness, if you were just in Daniel Schwarber's, how many of you guys were just in the main session? That was incredible. Incredible. Anyone who speaks in church, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of sermons on Daniel coming out in the next few months this spring. We're all going to be so intelligent when we have these insights of the book of Daniel and our story. So I am a few things. My wife, Judy, and I started a company. She's way in the back. Wave, Miss Judy. She's back there hiding, but she'll give me notes. We started a little production company in 2001, on September 1 of 2001, and didn't know if we could afford to pay the 2 people we had hired to join us at the end of the first week. It's an act of faith and probably stupidity, but mostly faith. And 10 days later would be 9/11, and every contract we thought we would have would be canceled. But by God's grace, the first day we were open, the first day, by the end of that first day, was a Monday. A guy I had never met had hired us to produce a $90,000 documentary and had handed me a $30,000 deposit check on day one. So there are struggles. There are desert times, but we didn't start out there. It was ridiculous. I still can't believe it. I know you're looking at me like you're lying. Let's talk later. Tell the whole story. But I want to talk about directing. So in our company now, we're a company of about 15 people, and over the last 24 years, our company has done films and videos and music videos and commercials and everything we do with production. The other side of our company does web and app development and all kinds of digital distribution apps. And we just go to work every day, and different things crop up. Hannah is an associate of ours. She's here wearing the Kwufufufuf sweatshirt. I'd like to buy a vowel for that if I could. And I myself have kind of focused on 3 major areas of work, which is writing and directing and editing. And I haven't seen the movie that just won the Academy Award, and several people have told me not to see it. It's basically, I don't know, maybe you've seen it. I don't know. I don't want to judge it, but it was a writer, director, editor. And I think there is a certain cohesiveness in a project when you get the privilege of doing those 3 things. And it is a responsibility and a privilege. And I really love all 3 things. And so when you go to see any movie, wherever it is, at a theater, at home, on the airplane, on your phone, nobody can tell you what you like and what you don't like. You either like it or you don't like it. But the one person that's most responsible for your like or dislike is going to be, obviously, the director. These decisions that affect the pace of the film, the storyline of the film, the way the thing looks, it's this responsibility. And so it's a huge team, of course, and yet you can kind of blame somebody. You really the director deserves the blame if it was boring or if it was out of sync, if it didn't make sense. And so I want to show you a trailer of a movie I brought here 3 years ago, just to give you a teeny little piece. So this is a 2-minute trailer of a movie called Sabina, Tortured for Christ, the Nazi Years. And it's a film that I was those 3 things, the writer, director, the editor. So I'll play it.
I want the same things every girl wants. And then a little bit more.
I want you to meet someone.
Oh.
He's every bit as ambitious as you.
Who's this?
She is my niece, Sabina Oster.
My mother is nagging me to get married. She's even picked out a girl.
That sounds very nice for you. And what do you think?
I think my mother should ask me that question.
Your mother's gonna kill me.
The SS came looking for you today.
I'm not hiding.
And you should.
Sind Sie Sabina Wurmbrand?
We can get you to the border if we leave now.
You know this is ridiculous.
I'm collecting all the verses in the Bible that tell us not to be afraid. I think I might need to lead on all of them. If we stay, I'll follow the others into prison. It will be the end of our lives together.
Whosoever will save his life shall lose it. And whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. We believe this or we don't. I think we have to start. We have a job to do.
Hi, that's Sabina. Thank you. I am not involved in distribution or marketing, but I did find out that this week Sabina is now on the Angel Guild Network, submitted by Vision, and they told me, this sounds like bragging, but they told me, they said it was the highest rated movie the Guild has ever had that they didn't produce themselves. So it came in with like a 95 score. So I'm excited when people get to see this film. It's powerful. As you can tell, it's a period piece. And I want to talk about this, what is a director? Because I think in this room, there are people here who God is going to raise up to be given the chance to direct all kinds of things. I think that's why you're here. And like I said, I'm going to do 2 workshops. And on this workshop, if you'll indulge me, I just want to think about this role together. I want to think about where we are in time and what this opportunity and responsibility is. It's a little bit of more heady. And then if you want to come back tomorrow for the 201, I'm going to go through just my personal nuts and bolts, the specific things that work for me in directing a film. But directors, first of all, are people who have to have some confidence in their own sense of taste. And there's a fine line between confidence and just downright arrogance and insufferable qualities. But you have to believe in your taste, and hopefully other people will have affirmed that. If they're going to hand you the budget to produce anything, whether it's a 30-second commercial to a music video to a feature film, you have to know that you've developed a sense of taste, and you've got to have your own philosophy of how to do that. And it's going to be a mixture of you listening to the right people and picking and choosing and praying and building this sense of taste. I kind of compared it. I don't know how to cook at all. I can make oatmeal and cereal, but I kind of compared it to a chef, a master chef in a restaurant. This is what I think a chef does. Some of you might know better. I think they basically are in charge of picking the recipes that will be delivered ultimately to the table. And so they're not the only person involved in delivering that meal to the table. They have a big staff, and they know that if what ends up on the table is bad, the restaurant is out of business. Restaurants don't tend to be government subsidized. So here's the thing a chef has to probably take into consideration. He can have, or she can have, no weak links. The produce has to be fresh. Every single aspect, because it takes everything to go right to serve that meal hot and fresh and on time. It takes one thing to go wrong to ruin the whole meal. And you got a line of people putting little things on there. And if any one of those people decides to put salt instead of pepper, who knows, whatever chefs do, the meal is ruined. And obviously with films, that is the case. You kind of have to bat 1,000. And so the pressure is on. And as a director, your taste is going to be responsible for that meal. And people have choices of restaurants, but it's not even as good as a restaurant. A restaurant is typically in a space, but imagine if you started a restaurant and every other restaurant in town was literally right across the street from your restaurant. And if you had one bad meal, all people had to do was walk next door and go to another one. But it's actually worse than that, because what if every other restaurant in the world was right next to your restaurant? And it's actually worse than that. What if every restaurant and every chef in the world for all time was next to your restaurant, and you still wanted people to come in and pay money to eat your food? This is what we're up against, right? Now, the golden era of Hollywood movies, they say, was the era between 1930 and 1950. So in 1939, this movie came out, Gone with the Wind. That's the year my parents were born, 1939. And there's this line at the top of this, the most magnificent picture ever. Now think about in 1939, if you wanted to see a moving picture, a motion picture, you pretty much had to go to a theater to see it and sit with other people. You weren't going to watch it at home on your TV. You certainly weren't going to stream it. You had to go see it in a theater. And when a big movie like this comes out and it says it's the most magnificent ever, well, everyone's going to go see it. And everyone did. It's estimated 200 million people, 200 million people saw its initial and subsequent releases. One movie. Now, 500 to 800 movies are said to come out every year. I'm talking about since 1939. So you got about between 50 and 70,000 restaurants competing for that meal that we want to serve them. And, back then, the same year, another great movie, Wizard of Oz, came out. Well, that's gotten a lot of attention. We still know that story. And 2 years later, what some people consider the greatest movie ever, Citizen Kane, Orson Welles. And right after that, Casablanca. The golden era. So we're stuck against every restaurant that's ever been made. We have to serve a meal that has no problem. And if that's not bad enough, now AI comes along. And it can write your script. Pretty soon it can make your visuals. And I've been told that soon there may be more movies than there are people on the planet, and that AI will determine your personal preferences and make a movie just for you. I hope some of you know how to code or, paint or do HVAC. No, I don't mean that. I really mean our job is more important than ever. Someone told me once the church is going to be saved by analog. The things of fellowship are still human, person to person. I still have an analog watch. It tells me exactly what time it is. So what you are is this little word I made up called the taste master. You're the taste master. Sounds like something coming straight out of the movies, doesn't it? And more than ever, you've got to bring that taste, that technical skill, and put these things into these projects that God is going to bring to you. And then you have this sacred responsibility. This festival is so right on. It emphasizes all the right things. Those 10 values of this festival are rock solid. And I won't go through them, but I agree with them. And the humility that is somehow in contrast with that confidence in your own ability to direct and to lead. But you have to serve your audience. That's your sacred responsibility. And to serve them means you do not bore them. Jesus served his disciples physically. He was in the same room. He washed their feet. You are serving audiences now around the world who you will never meet. And I am here to try to, for the next 2 days, push you and push myself as hard as I can. If you want to be a servant in the film business, make good films. That is how you serve people. That is how you wash their feet. You don't bore them. You don't patronize them. And then when your film comes out, this was in Poland at the NNW Film Festival. This was at a release of our films. This is some of the producers on Sabina. You get these opportunities if you've done good work, and it will get shown and seen and discussed, and it'll have longevity and impact. I read a book. It was over my head when I was in junior high school. Maybe somebody might remember Robert Pirsig's book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Anybody remember that book? Probably not many. It was a book, if I remember right, about quality with a capital Q. Is there such a thing? I start out by saying, y'all know what you like when you see a film, but is there really a qualitative standard? Are some works qualitatively better than other works? It's a debatable topic. But in the world as I've been looking at it, I want to show you some observations about what is quality, and then where did it go, if it went anywhere. And some of you may want to argue with me about this whole little sequence later, and I'm happy to hear your thoughts. Unless you're from Portugal, then I don't hear your thoughts. Just Joe, I was leaving. Recently I had a day off in Amsterdam, and whenever I get a day off in Amsterdam, I love to go to the Rijksmuseum. I love the Rijksmuseum. And if you ever go to the Rijksmuseum, or I think any museum, I encourage you either have a guide or take the little headphones, and because without the story, you kind of miss most of the things. So I was in the Rijksmuseum, and the first painting I came across was this one. This is just a tiny little segment of it. This is a guy named Willem van der Velde II, And this painting is called Dutch Ships in a Calm Sea, as you can see, painted in 1665. Man, I stood and I got closer. It's like looking through a window at the harbor. It's in the age of painting called realism. And if you can't really see it so well, but you could get close to these guys on this little rowboat. You can see, like, the digital wristwatch on their wrist. The detail is amazing. The perspective is incredible. It's just one of these paintings in the realism category. There's still lives and all kinds of things. Powerful skill. You could make a living in the 17th century, in the mid-1600s, if you had this skill. The next day, I went to a different museum with a painter that I love. I've got a few of his, I think they're originals in my house. I'm not sure if they're originals or not. I paid like $60 for them. Van Gogh. I went to the Van Gogh Museum. And Van Gogh, this is his famous Sunflowers, 1888, 200 years later. And I'm not criticizing Van Gogh, like I said, I love, but totally different style. We've moved out of realism, and now we're into Impressionism, or who knows what it's supposed to be called. I'm not an art historian, but he's making a different statement, and the perspective is nowhere near as good. The detail is nowhere near the same level of capital Q quality. It doesn't mean that this painting didn't sell for $500 million, because it did. But look at what has happened between Van de Velde, or maybe you saw the Rembrandt picture that was put up in the wall in the main session, that beautiful Rembrandt about the prodigal son, the Rembrandts. Well, all right, we go Monet and we go Manet and we get Van Gogh, and then we move into this modernism period. Here's Kandinsky, another famous modern artist, and he's like one of the best, so pretty famous. 1911 is their. But let's just jump. I can't spend all day on art. Let's jump to today. Here's an exhibit that came out in 2019, an art exhibit. Have you heard of Banana on the Wall? Some of you have heard of this, yeah? Did you know it sold for $6.2 million? Yep. Well, I might be kidding, but that's what I read somewhere. I heard $6.2 million. And you say, well, what do you do with a piece of duct tape and a banana on the wall when the banana gets spoiled? I didn't know the answer to that. I looked it up. They tear the tape off. They put up a new banana, which they buy for 30 cents outside, and the art is just replaced. Art. There's a message in here about evolution, but I don't need to point it out to you. So that was 6.2 million, but it gets worse than that. This is 2021, and this is called CryptoPunks. NFTs of the digital age. This sold for $11.8 million. I don't know where people get this money. We're all trying to get our films funded. Can you imagine we could trade a couple of digital CryptoPunks? So, wow. So, yes, somebody's not happy with us. I think things change, and I'm not against, things changing. And I ask myself, why do things change? I don't know the answer to that. But you have this excellence, and it's almost like maybe the next generation needs to sort of sow their own excellence. And so things change because generational change happens, and you want to stand for what you don't want to be what your mother and father liked. And in fact, if they don't like what you like, that makes you like it all the more. And so we've gone from human beings who had to absolutely master color and perspective and detail, and we've come to, there's no human beings involved in CryptoPunks. It's a machine that makes it. And maybe we don't need Van de Velde today because our phones can take photographs. So what do we need realism in our paintings for? So maybe we need a new thing. All right, well, if you don't believe that, let's talk fashion. Fashion has progressed as well. You got Clark Gable there on the left, and then you got that guy on the right. Yeah, you see the improvements. You see the evolution of our taste and our style. So if you ever go to the Vatican, and the Vatican Museum is well worth bucket lists for everybody to take that tour. So one of the things is the Hall of Tapestries. So here's a tapestry. This is made of threads. And here's a shot where the people are looking at that same tapestry. You get the sense of the scale and the size. And then I searched for modern tapestry. Wow. It's just nice that 4-year-olds can contribute now to fine art, isn't it? I'm sorry. Maybe someone in this place paid $12 million for that. I don't know. Well, what about music? All right, so we all love music. Don't get me started. I hear you. I have the terrible job of being a worship leader at a church. And please pray for your worship leaders, because here's the thing about music. These four at this table, they don't agree about music. These four at this table, they don't agree. Jao all by himself, he doesn't even agree with himself about music. Those two, they disagree. Everyone loves their music. And so, when you have to pick music to sing, you're going to get a variety of comments no matter what you do. So I put a little video for you. So make sure that the music is nice and hot on this, and I'm going to play this for you.
This is my song. The saints when they fight. Situation, that's not what you know, it's just the bacon.
Not comprehensive, I know. Here we can talk about sculpture. Here, Michelangelo at the top, and then you have a couple sculptures from my hometown there on the bottom. That one's by our library on the left, and that one on the right is at my college alma mater. But think about that music. We started with the Baroque period. You saw a little bit of Pachelbel. We moved from him into the classicists like Beethoven and Bach and Mozart. And then music went into this romantic period. We saw Chopin and Mendelssohn and Brahms. And then I jumped ahead to the mid-1800s, where country folk song singers and story songs like Stephen Collins Foster with "Oh Susanna," and then Fanny Crosby made an appearance there when they were writing hymns and hymnologies. And then we heard the big band era with Benny Goodman and Count Basie, into jazz, Charlie Parker and Louis Armstrong. And then more into the modern 20th century composers like Aaron Copland or even Hans Zimmer. A little bit of the touch of rock and roll coming around with Chuck Berry in the 50s, through Elvis Presley, the Beatles, into top 40 with Elton John and Carly Simon, into Metallica, heavy metal, disco, alternative, hip hop, rap. And now we land on what's called techno or house or trance. And it reminds me a lot of those crypto punk guys, because that kind of beat and music, it doesn't need an instrument. It doesn't need a singer. And it doesn't need even a musician. And maybe in the future, it won't even need us. Like, your computer can make art or music and it sends it to my computer, and it just cuts us out of the whole equation. I think this is called devolution. I think that's what this is. And I think it's something to think about, because where are we going? So what can we do? A room full of Christian taste masters who have a chance to create art in this world of CryptoPunks, techno music, and that fashion that I just showed you, which maybe you have that at home. Maybe that's what you wear. So it's tempting to just complain. And I'm kind of on the thin edge of just complaining right now. And I don't want to just complain about how we moved from Rembrandt to a duct-taped banana on the wall. But what is our response supposed to be? And we could look at a lot of other disciplines like architecture and literature, and I just cut them out of this talk because I think you get the point by now. And the thing is that these arts, in many cases, were once used to glorify God. And today, from my perspective, they're mostly used to profane God. Mm-hmm. I was just in Germany at the European film market. Maybe I don't know if you were there, Joe, but again, I'm not trying to complain, but 3 out of every 4 posters that are being promoted as films for distribution in Europe are horror and death. And I actually had a bunch of posters. I'm not going to show them to you. There's a rule here: only show Christian films. I'm not going to show you these posters. There were once great cathedrals. The movie The Brutalist just came out. another movie about the progression of architecture from the beautiful cathedrals, or even the ancient domes that were built, or even, the Parthenon in Athens, architectural masterpiece, to giant block structures. So where do we go from here? All right, here's my answer. Not my answer, it's Michelangelo's answer. This is kind of a motto at our company. I don't live up to this motto most of the time because I don't mean to criticize, but it's very easy to become critical. So this room, don't criticize, create. That's a good thing to do. We will offer a response. We will put art together and we will create things. Michelangelo, greatest artist of his generation, maybe of any generation, and this is the famous moment at the Sistine Chapel. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. I showed you a quick shot of the David. I was in Florence years ago with an art tour guide, so this is all what she taught me. And the David's, beautiful, and you go, wow, what skill and what talent. Yeah. She's kind of like, yeah, but you know what it says? This kind of reminds me of the story that we just heard a minute ago, the lecture on story. What are the Davids saying? Did you know he was given to the people of Florence at a time when they were about to be attacked from a superior force? I think it was the Perusians, but I could be wrong about that. Somebody might remember. And Michelangelo sculpts this, and who does he pick as a subject? David, who also faced a superior force in Goliath and the Philistines in the Bible. And again, I love what Daniel Schwarber said, that the moral is kind of hidden, concealed, as he said. But this art historian says, look at this. Look closely at his eyes. He's afraid. There's fear in his eyes. You don't face a superior force, whether it's Goliath or the Perusians or whoever, without humanly being a little bit afraid. But then look at his mouth. And that distance from his eyes to his mouth. And his mouth is courage, resolve, faith. This Michelangelo dude was cool. He is speaking to us 400-500 years later. He is speaking to us about faith and courage. Or just one other little Michelangelo geeky thing. This is the Pietà. It sits in St. Peter's Basilica. And again, if you look closely, you see this. How does he make marble look like rippled flesh? And I mean, his anatomical sense is phenomenal. The skill, the artistry. But what's he saying? What's the concealed message of the Pietà? Again, thank you for taking me on a guided tour, not because I'm an art historian, but she says to me, look at the Pietà. The corpse of Jesus is a 33-year-old man, and that's his mother holding him. How old does she look? About 25. How does a 25-year-old woman hold on to her 33-year-old dead son? It doesn't make sense. The math doesn't add up. I don't know, but the postulation that I was told is Michelangelo is reminding us she was a virgin. It was a virgin birth. She was always a virgin. It's a miracle. Michelangelo, he's speaking. So let me go back to the Sistine Chapel. This is that famous moment on the Sistine Chapel where, on the right there is the anthropomorphic personification of God. On the left is the man Adam, and this touch. When does this touch of creation, when does God pass the divine gift to man? Man will be made in my own image. Just a week ago or so, I was at the NRB convention in Dallas. So this is all Jonathan Turley. He spoke at the dinner banquet. Jonathan Turley is a lawyer, and guy's brilliant. He just wrote a book I've been reading called The Indispensable Right, Free Speech in an Age of Rage. And he put this picture up on the screen, and then he postulated, you see the shape behind God? Does that remind you of anything? Does that help? The shape behind God is like a dead ringer for the human brain. Isn't that interesting? I never knew that. Never saw that before. In fact, if you break it down, it's got all these parts. I don't know all the parts of the brain, but Michelangelo did. He studied anatomy. He studied cadavers. What's he saying? What if one of the things he could be saying is, I want to get this right because I like the way Jonathan put it. He said, most everyone is familiar with the image. What if the creator here is granting the created the gift of creativity. Wow, I like that. Where does your creativity come from? Now, we've all had kind of a mocking response when somebody gets up and says, the Lord gave me this song, and then they blare this song, and you're like, oh, the Lord cannot write songs. And we're critical, and I've done that, and yet, no less than Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart said, I don't know where my ideas come from. Neither can I force them. Michelangelo, I think, was talking about the gift maybe of creativity, and that I will give you the mind of God from which you will understand springs things. So, yes, today at Kuvufufuf, in this room, I want us to shoot for the stars, directors. I want you to shoot to be Michelangelo or to be Johann Sebastian Bach or even to be Alfred Hitchcock. Yes, you, in your day, in our time. So this little fun exercise of the changing nature of art and where we fit in it and how we're going to be human beings as we become directors, you know, the Word of God is never out of style. That book hasn't been modified, at least properly. I mean, that book is as true today as it was when it was written. We just heard, if you were in that last session, a brand new interpretation of Daniel that I've never heard before, and it makes so much sense. There's just no end to the revelations in the Word of God. It's phenomenal. And you've probably heard even some of the surfacey things. It's written by 40 different authors over 1,500 years. And they didn't know they were all contributing, to a single volume. They didn't know that. Imagine if we had a little exercise in here and every one of you went off and wrote a chapter and we put them all together. It would be an incoherent, crazy thing. But the Holy Spirit inspired this book, and it's so solid. Why am I bringing this up? Because this is a source for us, and a never-ending source. And we can't be encouraged enough or reminded enough or given enough tools to live in and under God's word. It's one of the reasons I love this festival. They have this perfectly well understood here at this church, and Stephen and Alex model this for me every time I'm here. Listen to this verse. This one really blows my mind. When I consider your heavens. Now, this is God's creativity we're talking about. The work of your fingers, like the moon and the stars, which you have ordained. David says, so, well, what is man that you would be mindful of him? You made him a little lower than the angels, and you've crowned him with glory and honor compared to the moon and the stars. And you've made him to have dominion over the works of your hands. That is the lesser governing the works of the greater. That can only be done by the gift of the greater. You have put all things under his feet. That's Psalm 8. So we have dominion over this? Because God's works, God's creativity, God's artistry is stunningly beautiful. I just learned in the last session what is something that is both a parallel and a circle. Were you guys paying attention? A spiral. I knew the answer. I was in the back, so I didn't say it out loud, but it's DNA. God's creativity is functional, is it not? Or, I don't know, it's interesting, like flying squirrels, like a little bit of a sense of humor. And speaking of sense of humor, I think all penguins are funny. Maybe they don't think they're funny. I don't even know if that's a penguin, but it's really furry and it's really, it's a baby penguin? That's a baby penguin. See, we're teaching each other here. And I like, we talk a lot when we get into the writing seminars about character. Now, there's a character, isn't it? Like, you can just name him Sydney, and right away you know this walking owl perfectly well. But this Bible, this collection, this is the picture of the oldest known, I think, Hebrew Bible, which is valuable, very valuable. I encourage myself and all of us to work on the discipline of living in and underneath the Bible and not analyzing it and not trying to be smarter than it, but submitting to it. And that's a journey I've been on. It's a talk for another day. So like I said to you guys earlier, I think this is a sacred calling. And I wanted to talk about these things as sort of a foundation, because directing a film is a sacred responsibility. And you are the one person on that entire set who is representing the audience. It is your job to represent the audience. And sometimes that's a bit of a conflict with about 50 other voices that want to do things their way. And they may be right, but remember, you represent the people that are going to observe your film. And it is, maybe it's not a sin. I've heard it said it's a sin to bore people, but it's close. It certainly isn't serving. It certainly isn't serving them. The way you serve when you are making a film, in my opinion, is you make a great film. That's how you serve. Now, you better treat people the way Christ treated. You better create an atmosphere where you demonstrate what it's like to love each other on the set. You better have control of your temper and your tongue. I like reading about George Washington. He was a stud. And he writes about how he learned not to let anyone know what his emotions were. As a leader, that's super important. You got to be calm, cool, and collected on the set. You got to know what you want. You got to listen to people, and you got to make decisions. The integration of story and image and performance and sound and editing, it's powerful. Even these great artists like Van de Velde and Rembrandt, their pictures couldn't move. Even these great musicians like Mozart and Bach and Beethoven, they couldn't send their music unless they went or a live orchestra went. We have some tools that they didn't have. I consider our little production company that I told you about, that Judy and I started in Michigan. We have about 15 people, and Hannah's here, one of them. We don't look like much. We don't have a lot of signage on our building. We don't try to draw a lot of attention to ourselves. But you've heard me talk. I consider us a nuclear submarine. We're stealthy. We're creating things under the water, and we can project all over the world powerful messages. And it is a battle image, but I think we are in a battle against the powers of darkness and the powers of this world, and all of us are part of this counterattack. Principalities and powers. Our media, even though we're competing with every other restaurant in the world, if you make a good meal, people are going to watch it, and you're going to have impact. You're like a nuclear submarine. So I think you've been ordained by God, some of you in this room. And if you haven't, that's cool, because he'll ordain you into wherever you're called to go. But this is not just a job interview. Jobs are great. Work is holy. Any kind of work can be done to the glory of God. If you're called to direct communications like film, I want to push you. You're made in God's image. You have creative power. He has touched you and your brain, and you have an opportunity to reach the entire planet with your content. We can version things now in every language around the world. We can instantly now have broadcast access through apps into cultures where they don't even have lights. You know, we were just on a shoot, many of you have been on, we were doing a film in Africa, and we're going through these little villages that don't have power, don't have running water, don't have bathrooms, and they do have cell phones. And they can get our content, and they can get your content. So you're made with these opportunities. This is a phenomenal, you're here for a reason. I believe that you're here for a reason. This is different than other film festivals. It's way different than, trust me, than Cannes or Sundance or Toronto. It's way different. It's even different, in my opinion, and some of you have been to them, even than some of the other Christian film festivals. This film festival is just absolutely about you living out your creative abilities under the authority of God and doing it with excellence. And I'm so proud to be here and humbled to be here and to talk to you. So, you know, like I said, in the next workshop, if you want to come tomorrow, I'm just going to get into the nuts and bolts of the tools that help me. Some of you have different tools, but if you're interested in our process, that's going to be tomorrow's talk. So I want to show you a few things that are new, that since I was here 3 years ago, I've been working on, just the trailers for some things, because I want you to understand that you can create with this push I'm giving you for excellence in all kinds of different expressions. So right now, we've got 3 things kind of coming out, kind of a documentary series, a cartoon series, and a new feature film. Those are 3 completely different things. And the documentary series is called Leaders at Gettysburg. And this meant a lot to me. It's a 3-part television series. It's 45 minutes an episode. I'd like it to show in Portugal, just saying. I'm really picking on. So Portugal, first country. Seriously, we want this. It's an American story, Gettysburg. And I made a mistake. Judy and I made a mistake. We took our kids to Disneyland. We didn't never take them to Gettysburg. If I could do it again, we would flip that. And I won't make the same mistake with my grandkids. I had never been to Gettysburg before working on this project. I had no real knowledge about it. But if you know anything about American history and the Civil War, Gettysburg was the turning point of the Civil War, 1863. And the energy and the pathos and the sacrifice when you walk on those fields, it will hit you like a ton of bricks, especially if you're with a guide, if you're listening. There were 60,000 casualties in 3 days. It's the bloodiest 3 days in American history. And all the soldiers in that battle were volunteers. And so you're only going to go as far and as high and as fast as leadership. So it's a really good crucible in which to study leadership. So I'll just play you this little trailer. Gettysburg, the bloodiest battle in the history of America, in a war that was anything but civil. Jay Lorenzen brings us to Gettysburg, brings us to the leaders, the fields, the land where over 3 days in July of 1863, over 120,000 men tried to kill each other. In that intense crucible of war, the difference between advance and retreat, between progress and regress, between success and failure, was leadership. The Leaders at Gettysburg with Jay Lorenzen is the most comprehensive reflection on what went right, what went wrong, and what we can still learn today from the battle at Gettysburg. For those who forget their history are always doomed to repeat it. All right. So that's the first offering that we have actually finished from a little brand that we started called America Studios. And our goal with America Studios is to remember that motto of those who forget their history might be doomed to repeat it. And the flip is also true, the ABC, CBA, or however that works that I just learned. If you can remember the best of your history, whatever culture you're from, if you can remember the points in time where it seemed like the hand of God was with you, then you might be able to preserve the best parts of a culture. There's a movie, this is a side note, coming out in June that is called The American Miracle. And my friend Tim Mahoney is producing that movie. He hired me to write it, so I took the book by Michael Medved and wrote the screenplay, and then I handed it off to Tim. But Michael Medved's book is a bunch of stories about the history of America that he concludes, as an Orthodox Jewish believer, are best explained by God's hand. So I do think it's good to study history. I think as a person who was born in this country, we have a lot to learn from our history. And if you look at the backside of our sheep's booth is some America Studios stories. So that's one thing. That's kind of the documentary. It's 3 parts, 45 minutes. The next thing I want to show you is another new offering. We just released this last week at NRB. And I had a feeling at a conference not long ago that maybe there was an awful lot of our work, including my own, that was very heavy. Tortured for Christ, pretty heavy. Sorry. And man, it's true that we have desert periods in life and we are called to carry our cross. So I think those stories are great. But I also think that a fruit of the Spirit is joy. And I don't want to lose the fact that whether or not I might have to carry a cross tomorrow, in the meanwhile, and even then, God's called me to live with joy in my life, and I'm going to pursue that hard. And I also had a second thought, and that is that the kids around the world, if they don't have a foundation of Bible, it's tough to build on the foundation that you don't have. And again, thank you for that fantastic seminar. We don't have to wrap every Bible story up with a moral of the story. And I have got a better reason why I haven't wanted to do that, just from what I just heard from Daniel Schwarber than I could have articulated yesterday. So I want to show you just a little clip from the Sheeps, a little promo.
Oh, it's bedtime.
Yes, it's bedtime.
What is bedtime? With the sheep.
Bedtime. Hi, I'm Jordan Osborne, or the Story Mom, as they call me. I'm a mom with 8 kids. Here's my littlest. So I know what it's like to try and teach my kids to learn about the love of God through the Bible. Bedtime with the Sheeps is designed to help all of us engage and enjoy the Bible on a couple of levels. First, each episode of Bedtime with the Sheeps features Virgil and Glenda Sheeps attempting to put their grandkids down for bed
Okay, I got your waters ready.
using a Bible story from Virgil's own collection of scrolls to settle them down.
I found it! Amazing. It was right where I left it.
Each story is a Bible story, but quite honestly, they're told from a very sheep-centric position. You know, since the sheep tell the story, they tend to exaggerate, you might say, the central importance of sheep in every story.
My sheep. My sheep. My sheep.
The good news is the stories are always funny and engaging,
was very nice.
and every story invites the viewers to check out the real story in the Bible, just so they can spot the exaggerations.
It's late. Time for us to close our eyes, count our people. 1 people, 2 people, 3
There really was a man named Abram, and God changed his name to Abraham and made him the father of a great nation. You can read about it in the Bible in Genesis chapter 13, or go to thesheeps.com for much more.
And second, we have corresponding episodes where I invite a real group of children right here onto our campfire set, and we open our Bibles and explore the same stories but without the sheep-centric exaggerations. So, I invite you to check out Bedtime with the Sheeps at thesheeps.com and hit the subscribe button.
She's good, isn't she? I mean, that young lady is terrific. I mean, she is an ordained pastor. She's a worship leader. She's a mother of 8. She's awesome. She's my daughter. And I mean, she is something else. Yes, nepotism is alive and well in this business. And so go to thesheeps.com. I mean, that is an unabashed commercial. They're brand new. We're just about to try to find partners so we can do more seasons, more episodes. But again, Daniel Schwarber taught me a great lesson. You have to discover the truth. I can't just tell you. So the concept is we start with humor, and then it's levels of engagement. So you are supposed to go to the Bible with your own kids, find out what we got wrong. You are supposed to take the next level. So we want to kind of draw you in, so it's self-discovery. But even if you don't discover anything, if you literally just open the Bible, in my opinion, the presence of God will show up and something good has happened. So it's silly, and it's fun, and it's deadly serious because the mission is biblical literacy for kids. And then lastly, I just want to share with you a dream. This one I'm nowhere on. I just finished writing this new screenplay, and I have been on this sort of tour of these arts, as you see where my head has been. And so I'm doing it, I'm trying to find the partners to produce this movie on what I would say might be the author of the most popular song in the history of songs. That's tough to defend, I'll admit, and I have no such really background for that. But when I was 15 years old, in high school, and I'm a rock and roll, I'm playing the guitar, I'm in a band where we painted our face. I can't even say it here like Kiss, but whatever. And my mother, who knows, is not musical in any way, shape, or form. John, I want you to listen to something. Okay, what is it? And she pulls out this record called Go for Baroque, and she's gonna play me some classical song. Like, really? I am not sophisticated enough for that. Can we listen to some Doobie Brothers or something? So she opens our old stereo thing, and she puts the record on there. And I lay down on the carpet, 15 years old, and this is in the 70s. And this piece of music that no one had really heard before that I knew, called Pachelbel's Canon in D major, came on the record player. And even a dumb rock and roll obsessed kid like myself go, oh man, I gotta hand it to you, Mom, that's pretty good. And something peaceful kind of came over me when I heard that rendition. So that's the 70s. Literally 3-4 months ago, I don't know how long ago, this year, I wake up in the middle of the night for no reason. This is, where do ideas come from? And I'm remembering that moment. And I have to find out, what was that recording? We've all heard Pachelbel's Canon in D, 100 different variations. What was the recording that my mother played for me? Middle of the night, I'm looking online, I'm looking in Apple iTunes, I'm looking I can't find it. I find a bunch of other versions, and none of them are right. And in my mind's eye, that was the best version I had ever heard. So I went on eBay, and I looked, and I recognized the cover of the album. There was 2 left in the world. I bought one of them. It came to my house, and anxiously, I put it on my record player with better speakers, and I was right. Jean-Francois Palliard recorded this version in 1967, and I think I'm no expert, but it was powerful. And then I started reading what people had been writing on YouTube about this song. We had it in our wedding. This is divine music. We played this for my mother at her funeral. On and on and on and on. And so that propelled me to write a screenplay. I went to Germany, and I'm just going to show you this silly little trailer here. Oh, that's kind of where he lived. Here we go. Listen to the acoustics here in the Prediger Kirche in Erfurt. And behind me are pipes of an organ played by Johann Pachelbel. For 12 years, he was the cantor in this church. It stands, it's beautiful. I can hardly imagine what it sounded like when one of the great musicians in the history of the world played this organ for the glory of God and the sake of the congregation. We're going to film a movie on the beautiful and tragic life of the artist Johann Pachelbel. It's a film about beauty, about music, about the pursuit of God and God's pursuit of man. And this is the real church in the real city where in the 17th century, Johann Pachelbel lived and worked and served. I hope you can join us on this journey to make a movie that is this beautiful and this filled with truth and this filled with music. Thanks. So I hope I get to make that one. And the beautiful thing is he was an inspiration for the 9-year-old boy who heard that song, at least in my screenplay, and decided that's what he wanted to do with his life. And that 9-year-old boy's name was Johann Sebastian Bach. So what difference can you make? Maybe you're not Mozart or Beethoven, but maybe you're good enough to be a Pachelbel and inspire the next Johann Sebastian Bach. And these are just to say, there's a documentary you saw, there's a cartoon you saw, and then there's a high art Amadeus kind of film. Whatever the expression you're going to do, aim high. And tomorrow, if you come back, we're going to talk about some of the disciplines. And then tomorrow, I'm doing a plenary at 4. I'm going to push you even harder. I'm going to close with this. This is Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, not a man we're going to quote in church very often. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. Storyteller sets the vision, the values, and the agenda of an entire generation that is to come. We need directors to telling these stories, these true stories, these inspiring stories, these artistic stories, these great stories. Yes, I kind of do want to push you to fight against taping a banana on the wall. I want to push you to do stuff that will last, because I believe stuff with the capital Q, I do believe in the capital Q, quality, gives you two things. It gives you longevity and it gives you impact. So that's it. We got about 8 minutes, and I'll ask John, if anyone has any comments or questions, it is the open floor. Open mic night.
Just stay there. I'll go get you.
Or I can repeat the question too if it takes too long to throw it. Just throw it. No, I want to throw it.
And then the next person's gonna be like in the corner there.
Thank you. What is as a director, what is the difference in between directing for an animation, a documentary, and like a feature film? What are the?
Man, what a great question. What's the difference in the directing between an animation, a documentary, and a feature? Nothing. It's about your taste. And you just have to figure out how to apply your taste to the specifics. It's also the same thing, by the way, of writing a song or doing an album, in my opinion. The tools change. But, every single person in this room has a slightly different taste. And so I showed you 3 that I happen to have my finger on. And it's just funny, from the director of Tortured for Christ comes the Sheeps. He's like, well, this guy's a schizophrenic, man. And I do all the voices. And I got my feedback. The processes are very different, and I will seriously get into very specifics tomorrow about how to make the most of the budget, because that's what we have. That's the practical reality. Is we don't have Steven Spielberg budgets, and so I would like to share what works for me, and we can have Q&A where what works for you guys too. But my short answer to that is, man, the taste is still the thing, and That applies across all forms that you get to direct. So learn on your taste. Yeah, okay, so you got to run all the way across there now? Or go ahead right here. I'll repeat it.
I can speak loud.
Yeah.
First of all, Pocketbell's Canon, awesome that you're doing that.
Pocketbell's Canon, awesome. I want that for the tape, yeah.
And second of all, you were mentioning taste and how everyone has their unique taste. As a director and as someone working in the field, how do you hire people who have a similar type of taste to not divert the project?
Yeah.
Keep it focused?
So the question was, how do you bring your team together that shares the taste that you have? It's a fantastic question. And maybe I can think about this and we could talk about it. My answer is you can't. You can't. You have to lead them. And so you have to find people who you like working with, who have a good work ethic, but you can't find all the same people that have your taste because they won't. And a lot of times, at least what I find, so they don't get it. They don't know where you're going, and you don't always have time to sort of paint the big picture. In the end, the only proof I give you is the movie itself. And I remember even one of my DPs was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Just trust me. When the movie comes out, you'll see why we did Out of Order and all these crazy things." And I don't like that to be the case. I want there to be everybody moving in the same direction. And tomorrow, I'm going to get into how I put everybody in the same direction. So I'll say this, they all know my taste. And then they bring their own skill to it. I would never tell an actor how to say a line, but I want the actor to know how I envision the character. And I'll go through those details tomorrow. It's a great question. Okay, some more, because I don't have a lot of time. Who's got the mic? Right over here? I don't, you don't have the mic, but I can repeat it. Go ahead. Preacher voice.
Can you tell a little bit, talk about the relationship between the director and the writer?
Yeah, the director and the
those
writer.
things come in conflict.
Yeah, well, I am the writer and the director, so there's never a conflict. And I mean that. The conflict comes between the director and the producer. And there should be conflict in some ways, I believe, between the director. Now, Judy, my wife of 37 years, is the producer for pretty much everything I do. And so my job as a director is to have the vision be broad, not to just settle for the Lego version. Her job as the producer is to not have us go bankrupt. And I respect her position, and she respects my position. So there might have been some of you who have worked with producers who they're a little bit of a power trip. They love saying no because they can. I don't want that. On the other hand, there's directors who won't take no for an answer, and that doesn't work either. Judy and I are a team, and we're on the same page. The writer-director thing is fascinating. I'll just give a quick story. We were working on a film, and we had rented a period train. And it was a lot of work to find a period train and 3 cars and an engine and another engine to push it there and push it back. And we had scouted it and gone all the paperwork and dealt with the government. It was $15,000 to get that train for a day. And we decided it was worth it for the film. About 3 days before the shoot, the government, knowing we didn't have any choice, came and said, "We changed our mind. It's $30,000. And I said, "Well, forget it. I'm going to rewrite the scene. It's going to be a bus." And I could do that. And they said, "All right, we'll take your $15,000. I'll give you one more quick example, and I know we're tight on time. But we were just shooting in Africa in December. We were in Uganda. And we were shooting a film that actually took place in the Congo. Hannah was there. We had been down there, done all of our prep, everything I'm going to talk about tomorrow. Everything was going beautifully. Day one, I mean, we were on the second on timing, and I'm just happy as a clam. Wonderful crew and cast. And we have a 4 a.m. call the next day because we leave early in this business. And at 2:30, Judy wakes me up and says, "You got to wake up. We have a problem." She had still been up working with the producers. "We're being hijacked." I've done a lot of films about persecuted Christians and really recognize that may be the call for all of us, but wasn't really excited about being kidnapped right at that very moment and tortured for a year and then killed. Well, it turns out they weren't there to kidnap us, but they had said if we leave the compound tomorrow without paying a new big fee, we would all be arrested. It's 4 in the morning, and the next day we have a full day's schedule, shoot it here, there, and everywhere, right? So we met in the middle of the night, and I said to the people that were going to go negotiate this with these, and not only that, it was a local police chief who was in charge of our own security team. So it would have been our own security team who would have been ordered to arrest us. Writer, director, one person. Tell them, one, we want to leave a blessing everywhere we go in this country. And if we have inadvertently missed a location fee, wow, we really apologize. We'd be happy to, up to, I ran it was up to $2,000 is what I said. If they go 1 penny over 2,000, you tell them, "We're so sorry we won't be able to film this film in your country. And thank God I know Franz Kronia from South Africa, who's been trying to get me down to his studio for the last 2 years, and we will just move the movie to South Africa." So the writer-director, if it's one person, those kind of quick, flexible decisions can happen. If you're separated, like American Miracle, which I did the writing for, Tim told me, oh, I rewrote some of your things and I added some stuff. And I said, oh, okay. I don't have any problem with that. Do whatever you want. One more question if we have time. And then, is it time? Okay. Analog watch, you know. Thank you guys for coming. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow at 11. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow at 4.